legends tell of manga. Legends also tell of anime adaptations. But many have forgotten that the legends also tell of a 1991 American movie adaptation. Hi, today we're going to talk about the Guyver. Now, I could talk about how this movie is a corny, bombastic, Jim Henson fever dream Netflix anime adaptation, but that would be too truthful. I'm not here to be truthful. I'm here to talk shit about a children's action movie. Exposition. That is good. No, I'm not mad. Oh yeah, this vocabulary is banging. I struggle just to grasp the basics. Really though, you can't convince me that a child did not write this. Anyway, the story smells somewhat of scrambled brains, so we'll skip the summary. Now the movie finally begins, and the scientist guy sets his briefcase down in the middle of a puddle, instead of literally anywhere else. So, already this movie has made abundantly clear that it's just trying to be as cool as humanly possible, even if it means defying basic logic. So yeah, this is the movie we're watching. Also, I'm shocked that this scientist even managed to get out of his house today. This is the kind of guy that'd trip and collapse on his way to the bathroom. So the scientist gets cornered by some individuals suffering from precocious puberty and their boss, Lisker, and turns into a fish in the middle of its second trimester. Now, this is where things get curious. See, this movie strongly classifies as so bad it's good, and yet the action and special effects sequences are cool. Now, as someone who has a fascination with the old cult movies, I'm probably a bit biased here, but honestly, I find a lot to love about some of the scenes in this movie. Take a look at Lisker's transformation sequence. There is some real craftsmanship here. I'd also point out that the director has also worked on the special effects. You don't usually see that unless there's some passion behind the production, which is something that I can really get behind. Sadly, this movie doesn't like to take itself seriously. How do we know? So, now we meet our hero, Sean. Sean is a loser who somehow hooked himself a hot Asian chick. That's basically his entire character. There's also this whole Aikido thing, but he sucks at that too, which makes very strange his apparent mastery of it throughout the movie. Anyway, his girlfriend, Mizuki, or Mizuki, is informed by middle-aged Luke Skywalker that her dad, the scientist, died. Oh yeah, Mark Hamill in this movie. Forgot about that. That's important. He also gets top billing even though he isn't the main character, barely impacts the story, and is kind of inexplicably killed off toward the end of the movie. Spoilers, by the way. Here we also meet the main bad guy, who's kind of like if Donald Trump and Joe Biden had a baby. Watch him in his surroundings long enough and you get the idea. This is a kids movie, so Sean leaves class to engage in little constructive stalking because why talk to his girlfriend at a more opportune time? Here, Sean discovers the unit. Now this is where things start getting complicated. See, the exposition told us that this is called the unit, and that it turns its host into the Guyver. However, for the rest of the movie, the two are conflated, with the bad guys looking for the unit but calling it the Guyver, and Sean being the Guyver but treating himself as the unit. He also has a metal testicle on his face, but we'll talk about that later. Basically, this movie makes zero sense. Hopefully I've gotten that message across. Later, Sean finally decides to have an actual conversation with this girl, but leaves upon seeing her with this grown-ass man who's like twice his age. Man, this guy's lower self-esteem than I do. By the way, this is a literal CIA agent fucking up hiding behind a door. This is where taxpayer money goes, I guess. Hamill's not doing anything important, by the way, beyond asking some basic questions in order to test this girl's acting skills with harrowing results.
Just what was my father mixed up in.
Speaking of acting, next we see the people working for the guy who is currently threatening the world. Yeah, I'm not touching that. These dudes were just doing it for the drugs that they thought that they were promised. On his way back, Sean decides to drive his shitty motorcycle into an alley, as one does, and falls conveniently into the hands of a very intimidating and convincing alley gang. The scene doesn't really seem to know whether it wants the thugs to come across as realistic or not, but things honestly get better as the scene goes on. Here we start seeing some actual manga influence, as this whole scene does feel like something straight out of an anime, culminating in a nice manly magical girl sequence. The effects are pretty cool again. Yeah, check out this guy. Bulletproof skin, arm blades, brain PP. So Sean beats the shit out of the thugs, who attempt some comedy relief, but discovers that he has inverted standards of his own self-image, turning back into an apparently cooler-looking human. I suppose I should point out that this movie has a ton of padding, mostly consisting of frustrated characters bitching about their lack of progress, followed by their higher-ups chewing them out and bitching about their lack of progress. I'm not really going to touch on any of them. Next, Sean decides to make one last desperate attempt to have a decent conversation with his faithful girlfriend. Nah, I'm fucking with you. He just wanted the other kind of mouth-to-mouth. Oh no, he was interrupted. Damn it, now I'll have to wait until the end of the movie for them to finish.
Shit!
So, after Sean's sensei comes to Mizuki's apartment, drop off some files. Again, this movie just does whatever it wants to do in order to justify whatever story beats they wanted to include. Sean leaves after a grand total of like 8 seconds to buy groceries. However, he picked a bad time to do it, since his sensei is fucking murdered and his girlfriend abducted. Then this happens.
Just be quiet, don't say nothing, man. Be quiet.
Gentlemen.
So now the good guys are on the same page. This movie is beautiful. Stryker, this dude, solves racism by turning into his monster form, and the chase begins. Here's where the movie starts rubbing me the wrong way, though. The model work on the suits is phenomenal. Top tier, honestly. The eyes are also mechanically animated, as are the mouth and ears. Unfortunately, the design treads a very fine line between serious and comical, ultimately ending up with an uncanny valley gremlin-looking thing. Also, even though the face can be extremely animated, it usually isn't. That sucks. This movie could have been so good. Instead, it's the fucking Guyver. Here I gotta take another little detour. I truly will never understand why it's so hard for professional movie makers to accurately portray professional movie making in a movie. The main issue here is that this monster movie's director doesn't actually know what the suit for the monster for his monster movie looks like. I know, they're trying to be funny. It's not funny. I will say though, the director here is otherwise kind of an ideal director. He's quick to criticize and critique, but immediately follows up with compliments and encouragement. Too bad he didn't direct this movie. That was mean. Next we get a long scene. You know this kind of scene. Good guys hide while bad guys lumber around knocking shit over. It's a long scene. We do get to see all the other Zoanoids transform, and we see a nice variety in the suit designs, even if some of those designs are kinda ass. Like, look at the girl. She's just an actual run-of-the-mill furry. I was gonna talk about this specific design a bit more, but now that I think about it, that's probably a bad idea. Anyway, combat. Hell yeah. Once again, there's some really solid action and effects work juxtaposed to some really, really crappy attempts at humor. I suppose now would be a good time, though, to talk about this movie's gore. Now, the Guyver was initially going to be super violent, like the manga and anime, but they had to tone down the gore in order to balance the action with the rest of the movie being kid-targeted. I can't cite any specific sources for that. Sucks to be you, I guess. All that said, some of the violence did carry over into the final movie, and it really makes me wish that the movie didn't view itself so childishly. This movie would have been awesome if it hadn't been PG. So, the fight concludes when Lisker discovers the Guyver's weakness. Grab his ball and pull on it. He gets his chance when Sean kills Lisker's girlfriend, and mistakenly believes that he killed Mizuki as well. The baddies beat the shit out of the emotionally traumatized youth, Lisker pulls his cranial testicle out, and Sean does his best impression of the human brain on crack. The bad guys are extremely pleased that they have destroyed the thing that they were trying to get all this time, and take the ball and their 2 captives back to Evil Capitalist Incorporated's headquarters. Oh boy, then we get this. I guess this is the child-friendly version of a sex scene. Well, I say child-friendly, and yet this is the same old dude who has a statue of a naked chick in his actual office. Yeah, this dude's weird. But, even more unforgivably, he decides to take Mizuki and give her the biggest exposition dump ever. It lasts almost 7 minutes. Then it ends with her fingering Sean's ball. Okay, that joke got old a while ago. So apparently the Guyver is regenerating from the thing, apparently called the control metal. So things are getting spicy. Then a guy swallows it and, just watch.
Get it out of there! Get it out! Get it out!
So Sean is back. He saves Mizuki and Mark, and then we get another fight scene that I can't say anything new about. Just as things seem like they've turned out okay though, Mark turns into the Thing and dies. Yeah, basically he was undergoing a benign zoonoid operation, but the process was interrupted by Sean. Whoops. Also, Balkus here seems to be doing something, but I don't know what his deal is. Look at him just hanging out here, having the time of his life. Anyhow, Balkus turns into a Daikaiju and the final battle commences. It's pretty fun. So, Sean turns back into his apparently much cooler looking previs stage and he's buck naked. I gotta say though, props to the filmmakers for putting this scene in. They could've just had his clothes respawn, but nah. Points for realism in your children's PG-13 American tokusatsu movie. So, they kiss, they leave, the cheesy cliffhanger hits, and the credits roll. So, that was the Guyver, a true American classic. What the fuck is this movie? Whatever. There's fun to be had. The effects alone carry the film and really make you want to just go out into the slums and beat up some crackheads, which I think I will go do now. Remember kids, if you see a rich old guy, don't let him touch you.